as I was coming up as a drummer and trying to kind of find my way, I was one who always, like I said, played along to stuff I loved. And fortunately for me, with our band touring so much, coming up, looking back now, coming up around so many great drummers in this industry, I would be one who, no matter what drummer I was like around or I heard, I would always try to take something from them. So it was like, and it could be the smallest thing. So like even, let's say Jimmy Chamberlin, the drummer of Smashing Pumpkins, great drummer.
Yeah.
Newfound does not sound like Smashing Pumpkins at all, but I absolutely love Smashing Pumpkins growing up. One thing Jimmy Chamberlin still does to this day that a lot of people don't do, his left foot keeps time on that hi-hat.
Yep.
Always. And I took that from him. And again, that's also one of those things you can't really teach. It just happens. When people are like, how is your foot doing that? I'm like, I don't even realize my foot is doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's one of those things where it's like, I would listen to him and I would focus on that and be like, okay, well, if he's got time on, like, how is his hi-hat going? He doesn't have a hand to do that. Oh, it's got to be his foot. And, in the mid-'90s, it wasn't easy to sometimes find live videos of people like you can now. Now it's really easy. You could probably find the drummer playing that. But I would always try to, like, look and see maybe this drummer's doing this or again, you don't have to go too specific, but like I would find a drummer that maybe was all ghost notes and be like, well, why are they doing that? How come it sounds like they're doing specific ghost notes? Or the drummer that loved to play crashes on everything. Lars from Metallica loves his crashes, but I took some of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I borrowed or stole or whatever, influenced by that.
Inspired by.
Trey Cool has this, nobody can play like Trey with the way he does his like half open hi-hat.
I know.
And I don't want to say I figured it out, but I did kind of realize, I think what he does, he's kind of doing the Jimmy Chamberlin thing with his foot.
Yeah.
But because he's going up and down with his foot, the way he plays eighth notes on his hi-hat, it sounds like he's purposely opening and closing. I don't think he means to do that.
Right.
That's just him playing a regular rock beat, but with his foot keeping time. And it's like, so now every time I listen to a drummer, I'm like maybe closing my eyes and visualizing them, or just trying to take something away in the sense that, can I add that to my arsenal? Or if I want to play a Green Day song, I want it to sound like Trey. I will never be Trey, but if I can crack that code of what he does with the hi-hat, now I can kind of sound like
Getting
him.
closer.
And so I did that with a lot of these drummers.
Yeah.
And of course now this adds up to 30 years after starting playing, I have a nice little vocabulary myself where I've developed this style myself, I should say, that kind of borrows from a little bit of this. And I think people still today can do that same thing, whether it's drummers like me or even younger drummers or drummers from the past. Like, you should always look into where they came from and what they do. And maybe you'll realize, oh, well, they did this, and find out their influences, because maybe they were influenced by somebody else. I'm sure Trey was probably influenced by like, I don't know, Keith Moon, right?
Yeah.
How crazy he was. I know Travis Barker was, and a lot of the Police stuff. And like, okay, well then why is he playing this one rhythm?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Stuart Copeland did that, back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I should try to play the Stuart Copeland rhythm. And once you learn that, okay, now I get it. He's doing an open hi-hat here or whatever.
Yeah.
So, very specific instances, but at the same time, a general idea that you can take from drummers. And learning from lessons is great, and I will always advocate for that, because that's your vocabulary, your chops, and if you can translate that to a kid, it's awesome. But at the same time, playing like other people and then trying to bring that into your playing, that's how you establish an identity.
For sure.
Because when you start, you don't know who you are, and you can't just automatically become some type of drummer. You become some type of drummer by who you play like, or who you play along to or with, or all of that.
I'm so glad you said that, because I do the hi-hat thing because of you.
Okay.
Like, Jimmy Chamberlin is also one of my favorite drummers, but I didn't pick up on that with him. I picked up other things. I picked up the hi-hat thing from you, and it made me feel like I was a better drummer because it kept time. Mm-hmm. I was able to, like, really, in my mind, if my left foot was going hard, my whole body would be engaged, and I would play a little bit harder, and I would play a little bit more locked in, and it would feel better, and the band would sound better, and all that sort of stuff. So that's the thing about creativity. Exactly. It's like, no one just got planted here and they're like, I'm the most creative person on earth and I did X, Y, and Z. Everybody takes influence from little bits and makes it their own. And to me, that's the beauty of music and creativity in this world that we live in the music industry. So I'm really glad you said that, because it's taking those little things and making them your own, but also, doing them as close as you can to your favorite drummer or musician, whatever it is. That's really important. That's a huge piece for sure.
Yeah, and not to sound cheesy, but that is one great example of being loyal to the craft, right?
Yes.
So doesn't have to be loyal to the craft in the aspect of what you're playing, or even like the drums you're playing, or the bands you're touring with, or what. It can literally be just, why do you like playing? What was the first music that you heard where you really started to focus on the drums?
Yeah.
For some people, like I saw an interview with Travis Barker recently, is like, Animal taught me how to play the drums.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, but Animal's not the drummer, obviously, right? There was a puppeteer and somebody recorded those drums, and who knows who that person was. But yeah, I get it, because Animal went off on the drums, and then Travis tries to do that same thing. And I could say that same thing about Travis. Like when we toured with Blink, one of the things I did, and of course, very fortunate, and not many people have ever had this chance. Well, his drum tech was amazing to me on that tour, and I was able to basically sit behind Travis at sound checks, because they had fire during the show and it was not safe. At sound checks, I would sit behind Travis and watch him. And the reason why I sat behind and not in front was because if you sit behind a drummer, and especially he was right-handed, I literally could close my eyes and then look at, open them and look at what he's doing and try to, now I understand, he's leading with this hand, or it's this fill. And it's like, I learned a lot of my paradiddles from Blink records, because he's such a rudimental drummer.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, I learned a lot of my rudiments, from Travis, because I didn't know those going in, because I never took a lesson.
Right.
And I didn't march, and I didn't have that, I wasn't fortunate like that. But then I realized, if I'm playing this song, that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
And
so
still to
much
this day, I
easier
don't
with
even
him.
know, what he was doing, or what it would technically be called.
Right.
But I understand that he was doing something, because he got it from marching or whatever, So yeah, it's those little nuances that, to me, it's like, take a little bit from here, a little bit there, you sprinkle it all together, you make your own recipe, and that's who you are.
Exactly. So see, you can deviate from the recipe just a little bit.
I guess.
Maybe not when it comes to food and cooking, or Debbie, being in the kitchen with you. But as far as music goes, that's the beauty of it. Like putting it all in and making it what you like, and it has to feel genuine, and it has to not feel forced.
Yeah, totally.